Somewhere in your mind, there's a voice that knows exactly what to say to stop you. It knows your weak points better than anyone. It knows the exact word or the exact silence that cuts deepest. And here's what you discovered: that voice isn't really yours. It's what we call the inner critic. It's one of the most misunderstood figures in the modern psyche. Social media has turned it into a productivity problem, something to hack, silence, or replace with affirmations. But Carl Jung, in Jungian depth psychology, the inner critic is a complex, a character, and like all characters in the psyche, it carries something important. It doesn't just punish you. It was trying to protect you, or at least that's what it was trying to do. This video is for you if you've ever wished or felt like no number of affirmations can quiet that voice. Like you should feel okay about yourself, but something inside keeps whispering otherwise. Stay until the end. I want to give you not just an explanation, but a different relationship with that voice. Hello, I'm Dr. RB. I'm a licensed psychologist in Florida and New York. And if you're returning to my channel, welcome back. And if you're new here, I'm glad you found your way. This channel is a sacred space where depth psychology meets ancient wisdom, where spirituality, human design, and therapeutic tools come together to guide personal transformation. My mission is really simple. It's to help you reconnect with your authentic self and divine guidance so that you can navigate this rapidly changing world with clarity, purpose, and peace. We're beginning a new series today called The Inner Critic. And I want to start where Carl Jung would start, not with how to silence it, but who it is. Jung introduced an idea that is to this day one of the most radical in all of psychology. The psyche is not one unified self, it's a community of voices. He called these clusters of voices complexes, patterns of feeling, memory, and belief that have taken on a kind of autonomous life in your inner world. A complex can feel like a different part of you because a meaningful sense it is. The inner critic is one of these complexes. It formed often in childhood around experiences of shame, conditional love, failure, or punishment. When a parent's approval depended on performance, when belonging required achieving, the psyche learned. There is a standard I must meet, and I need a voice to enforce it. Well, guess what? That voice has become your inner critic. And here's what's crucial to understand. The inner critic was not born malicious. It was born protective. It was trying to keep you safe from rejection, from punishment, and from the unbearable pain of not being enough. The tragedy is that the voice stays long after the original danger has passed. It was formed for a child navigating a specific environment, but it speaks to its warnings into a completely different life, your adult life, your relationships, your work, your creative dreams, and with the same old urgency as if the original threat were still present. And because it speaks in the first person, I'm not good enough. I always fail. No one will ever really love me. We mistake it for truth, but it isn't truth. It's a character, an old character playing an old role in a world that no longer exists. Now, here's something shadow work rarely tells you. The inner critic and the shadow are not the same thing, but they're kind of close neighbors. The shadow in Carl Jung's map of the soul or psyche is everything we pushed out of conscious awareness. Everything we told ourselves was unacceptable. The anger, the desire, the ambition, the grief, the sexuality, the wildness. But yet the inner critic is often the guardian of the shadow. It keeps you from expressing what was once forbidden. Don't be too much. Don't want too much. Don't take up too much space. That's not wisdom. That is the voice of an old wound trying to keep you small, because once being small kept you safe. When you begin to meet the shadow with curiosity instead of shame, the inner critic slowly loses its grip, not all at once, but gradually. The question isn't how to silence the critic, it's how to understand what it's been protecting and whether you still need that protection. The shadow forms in tandem with the inner critic. Whatever was rejected in you by caregivers, by culture, by religion, gets pushed into the shadow. The inner critic is the border patrol. It watches for anything that was once dangerous to express, and it sends an alarm. Hello, you're being too much, too emotional. Don't be arrogant. Don't boast. Who do you think you are? Pride is not a good thing. These are not neutral observations. They are the sound of someone trying to keep you within the boundaries of where once you felt safe. In alchemy, a tradition that Carl Jung drew on deeply, this stage was called the nigredo, the blackening, the confrontation with darkness, not a punishment, but a necessary descent. The inner critic is the voice that makes the descent feel dangerous. Shadow work, when done carefully with support, is the process of learning to descend with a lantern instead of running from the dark. But let me be clear about something. Real shadow work is not a social media challenge. It's not a list of prompts. Jung designed this work to happen in depth, ideally with the support of a trained therapist or analyst, someone who can hold the space when what surfaces is overwhelming. I offer this not to discourage you, but to honor the weight of what you're touching when you go inward at this very level. The inner critic gets loudest at the thresholds. This is one of the most consistent things that I've observed in my clinical work and in my own inner life. When life calls you to change, when you leave a job, cross a border, receive a diagnosis, end a relationship, begin something new, the inner critic doesn't get quiet. It gets louder. Why? Because change is a kind of death, a death of the old identity, the old role, the old story you've been telling about who you are and what you're capable of. And the inner critic's entire function was to protect that old structure. Research published in 2026 from the Max Planck Institute on transformative life decisions, emigration, career change, ending relationship, all of this confirms what depth psychology has always understood. These decisions shake identity at the root. They are, in many cases, irreversible. They change not just what you do, but who you are. And in that shaking, the critical voice rushes in. You're making a mistake. You don't have what it takes. Who do you think you are to want this? These are the threshold guardians. In ancient mythology, every threshold had one. The Sphinx before Thebes, the riddle that must be answered before passage. The river Styx, the crossing that demands something of you. The narrow gate in the Christian mystical tradition. The trickster at the crossroads. The inner critic at your threshold isn't a sign that you should turn back. It almost always is a sign that something real and meaningful is happening. The question is not whether you'll feel afraid. The question is whether you have enough inner ground to cross in spite of the fear. So, what do we actually do? Not affirmations, not suppression, not a 5-step system. Jung actually called the deeper work of engaging the inner figures of the psyche active imagination. It's a practice of turning inward, encountering the autonomous figures within, and entering into genuine dialogue with them. This is slow, careful work, and it deepens with therapeutic support. But there are smaller practices you can begin right now, not to fix the critic, but to start relating to it differently. The first practice is to name it. Don't become it. Instead of I am a failure, try there's a voice saying that I'm a failure. That grammatical shift, however small that it sounds, creates a distance between you and the complex. It moves the inner critic from identity to character. You are not the voice. You are not the one that is there. You are the one that can actually hear it, though. The second practice, ask what it's afraid of. Get quiet and genuinely ask, what are you trying to protect me from? Underneath the cruelty, there's almost always a terrified younger part, not a monster, a child, doing the only thing they know how to do. The third practice, offer what it needed then but couldn't get. Reassurance, presence, the message spoken inwardly that you are enough, not because you performed well, not because you produced something, but because you exist. This is what depth psychology calls trending. This is what depth psychology calls tending the wounded child. Not bypassing the wound, but returning to it with adult compassion. The inner critic isn't going away, but it doesn't have to be in charge. What changes slowly with practice, often with support, is your relationship to the voice. You stop believing it is the truth. You start recognizing it as a story, an old story from an old wound, spoken by an old character who is doing their very best with what it learned in a world that no longer exists. And as you develop the witnessing capacity, that part of you that can hear the critic without collapsing into it, something new then becomes possible. You can step toward what matters. You can cross the threshold, not because the voice is gone, but because you stop letting it make your decisions. If you're navigating a threshold right now, a life transition, loss, a beginning you're afraid to name, I want you to know there is support available. I offer 90-minute threshold sessions for exactly this kind of inner work. The link is in my bio, or the link is below. I'd be honored to sit with you with this. I write more about this in my newsletter, which I'll have the link below. There's a longer reflection in the inner critic and the journey of individuation that goes deeper than what we could touch on today. Link is below again. If today's message resonated, I invite you to subscribe, like, or share this video. It really helps with this work reach those who need it the most. And as always, this is Dr. RB. You are guided, you are loved, and your path is most sacred. Take good care of your soul.